regardless of whether you do anything that he's talking about, whether it's TikTok or his particular niche, just pay attention to what he's talking about. But anyway, before I ramble on like I normally do and rant here for the next 15 minutes, Hayden, it's awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm excited to riff with you for a bit. So, man, thanks for being here.
Well, I'm excited too, Damion. Thanks for having me, man. We've been talking about doing this and excited to finally be on it. We're properly social distancing, but me and you can see each other, and I think it's going to be a great talk.
Yeah, I do too. A little bit of background for you. So you just had your 16th birthday, is that right? Is it 16?
14th, actually. Yeah.
14th. So like your swell 14th. It's not sweet 16. All right.
No, about to be 24.
Okay, 24. So one of the things that I like about thinking about being 20 or 24 in your 20s is there's a certain naivety. You're not beat up by life, and it's a valuable thing. So when we're talking, think about the perspective of somebody that hasn't had 20 or 30 years of being beaten up and second guessing. Because like I remember being in back then in my 20s, and I just said, okay, here's what I'm going to go do, and I went and did it. I didn't have all the scar tissue, and I think like when you went out, you started your niche, and first, so your niche. Talk about your niche a little bit, but before you do that, you went kind of a traditional route. You went to college. Like you didn't get thrown out like me.
Right.
Like you went to college. It was pretty normal, was it? Or were there any weird things? Was it pretty normal or?
No, it was very normal. Normal college student life where attending class maybe wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I really enjoyed college life. But I hated the part where I actually had to go to class and take tests. And during that process, it led me to figuring out that like I didn't want someone else controlling my life and my actions. And that led me to one day after picking up a little purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, it led me to trying to figure out what am I going to do for freedom in my life where I can control my time, because I didn't even want to do summer internship where I went and sat in a desk and listened to somebody else. And I kind of created my own internship, but it just started one day. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and said, I got to learn about financial independence, financial freedom. And it sounds like probably the best way for me to do that is through real estate. I just started looking around on the internet. I'd never heard of anything at this point, never read any real estate books beside Rich Dad Poor Dad. Found Bigger Pockets, stumbled upon that, typed in the college town I was in, which is Athens, Georgia, where I was a Bulldog. And just a guy's name popped up, and there's this thread talking about how he had wholesaled some duplexes, bought them back, and then refinanced them and made all this money. At the time, to me, it just sounded like almost too good to be true. I couldn't actually believe what I'm hearing. I come from a great family, but it's not, a financially focused family of building your own independence and wealth and all this. It's a very traditional family. So whenever I got in this, I just called the guy, and, I had a ton of extra free time because I was in college, and I found one guy who was talking about doing it, and I called him up and I said, hey, I would love to be able to take you out and buy you a cup of coffee or lunch. He said, I don't drink coffee, but you can meet me at this property in 15 minutes. So I got in my car and I went and met him. And from that point on, whenever I was there looking at his investment properties, I said, this is awesome. I'd love to work for you for free, just in exchange for knowledge. And I ended up doing that for over a year. And through that process, I learned so much and tried to add so much value to his business. He ended up saying, look, I can't do anything but make you a partner in this business. So that's kind of how I got started. Whenever I graduated college, I had more investment properties than the professor who was teaching the investment properties course. So that's probably my favorite little story to tell. And that's how I got started.
I love that you did. I've said this for at least 15, maybe even 20 years, that if you want to figure out how to do something, there's a couple ways. You can go stumble and trip over yourself and bleed and really just, it's a total experience, or you can leverage other people. But it's really hard to leverage other people if you have no money and you're trying to figure out how to do it where you're getting something from them without giving something. And you just described the golden ticket, the magic. And I've been saying this, and I watch people and they struggle, and I go, here's what you do. You do what Hayden just said he did. And it's because wealthy people, successful people, we want to help other people. But what we don't want is people just taking from us. And what you did, you didn't say, hey, I want to take you. I want to suck your brain. You said, I want to contribute and I'd like to learn. And you know what? Those are like the golden words, the magic words for somebody saying, welcome to my kingdom, welcome to the jungle. So awesome choice. Why did you do that? Because nobody does that. Like that is so unbelievably useful and weird. Like what triggered you to do that?
Well, for a second, I think a lot of people think that the concept sounds good in practice, but a lot of people won't actually accept you doing that because just as you're saying, it's a time suck. Like for me to be in that person's life and trying to add value to his business, even for free, I'm still sucking up valuable resources. So I had to make sure that I was worth it to him. And a lot of times people will want to ask, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And a lot of times you're shifting the responsibility to them to figure out what can you do for them. Quit asking people what you can do for them. Be creative, figure out something you can do for them and just do it. Because if you're asking people, what can I do for you? Really, you're still asking them to do something for you. You're asking them to figure out what you can do for them. So my first goal was just like, I don't know anything about anything, but I'm going to start doing stuff for this guy that I think he's going to like. You know what I mean? So that was probably the number one thing. But really what got me started is just, I was just tired of not doing anything. I'm a doer. I love to go out and take action and do things. And I was like, I've read a book, but now it's time to get in. And I think a lot of people fall into, let me read this book and this book and this book and this book. And at the end of the day, you just got to get out there and do it. And that's probably what really led me to saying, all right, what is the quickest way for me to get from where I am to where I want to go, and how can I compress that time frame?
So do you sometimes feel, because you went in, and I'll take a little thunder here for a second. You went into the mini storage, self-storage space, and that's been your niche. You didn't go, and I don't think, you tell me, you tell everybody, you didn't go and study multifamily, industrial, commercial. Like, you didn't spend years studying all these niches. You went in and started doing something and just crushed it in that one niche. I mean, how much, or did you spend time, and if you did, how much on other stuff before you said, I'm going after this one thing?
So it's an interesting process and development, because whenever I first started working for this guy for free, his strategy had been to wholesale properties, to get money to flip properties, to and eventually cherry pick rentals, and eventually to 1031 those into bigger multifamily properties. Well, I was helping him work that process, as a lot of people do. And in that process, we came across a mini storage. And at that time, we had heard about mini storage, but we really didn't know anything about it. We were just doing what we did. And when we found one in our hometown, right in our backyard, and we said, all right, let's do it. Really just stumbled across it. Didn't find it intentionally, but we bought it, we closed on it, and we just said, wow, this is amazing, for a number of different reasons. It's the same play in terms of passive income and real estate investing and leverage and all that, but it's a different product. And we love the product so much that we said, we're going to go all in on this. And from there, it was just not only studying and meeting and reaching out to other people in the industry, but just doing it. And you're going to learn so much more just from doing it and innovating on your own than you are from reading someone else's book or going to some seminar.
I agree with that 100%. Do you feel like there's potentially greener grass in another space that and maybe because you don't know about it, or what's your sense? Because you've not done anything as deep as mini storage, self storage. You did the other stuff before you guys bought that property. But is there a part of you, because that happens, either people get bored or they start doing something and maybe it's taken too long, and then they go, well, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to chase this one. And what's your sense of that right now, given you've got some success and you've bought some properties and you've got some momentum? What are you thinking about in terms of other niches, or whether this one is like you're happy with this one?
I mean, I'm super happy with my niche. I think that you can always argue that the grass is greener on the other side, and I think people always want to hop around to the next best thing. But I think it's very valuable, even when there are other people in your space, to try and really dig deep down into becoming an expert in that one field and then just staying with it. And if you need to make the call of a strategic decision of, let's say, people quit buying mansions because no one has any money and you're a mansion investor. Well, it's probably smart to get out of mansion investing, but don't just do it because you heard that something else is better. So for me personally, I like mini storage. I think that maybe there are better opportunities out there, but I've gotten really good and studied at what we're doing and that field and that play. So we're going to stick with it and we're going to keep rolling. I think it's a great opportunity there.
And I agree with you. I mean, I've seen the numbers and it's exciting to me. One of the things that we should all be paying attention to is that it doesn't necessarily matter what you do. What Hayden said a few minutes ago was it matters that you go deep into it, that you develop the expertise. Here's a secret, you guys. There's no competition at the top. There's all the competition. It's all the noisy space where people are just scrounging for the bits and crackers that are left over from when people do things. It's kind of like public stocks. You know who makes money? The founders of the company that were there first, and the people that are promoting the thing, and the early institutions that bought. Everybody else the average people, if you will,
Mhm.
that are buying those shares, they're all getting screwed. But if you're early, if you focus, because the people that are the insiders, this is about becoming an insider, and you can create your own insider deals, which is what you do. Like you guys
Mhm.
are doing this, and you create insider deals because you become valuable to people and systems, and because you become an expert. Like I have a few of expertise areas, and it's not because I said, okay, I'm going to develop expertise in all these. I literally did one thing for years and spent thousands, like in martial arts, tens of thousands of hours in that. I've got
Mhm.
a certain level of expertise in retirement plans. I've got an expertise there. And so what do I do with that? I actually teach a lot of accountants and a lot of attorneys about this niche. Because if you don't have that, then why are people talking to you? Because you can talk about 100 different things. They're interested because you're an authority. And you become an authority not because you say you're an authority, but because you've done it. And that's what you've done. And I find it kind of fascinating when you talk about in your book, Skip the Flip, Secrets the 1% Know About Real Estate. And what was the rest of the title on the book? Secrets
Investing. Secrets to
Real estate
1%.
investing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you say skip the flip, but every HD TV channel is about flipping houses. So let's talk about that. And you're focused on mini storage, but your book is saying skip the flip. So what's that all about?
Okay, so being a young guy, I have a lot of friends, and I talk to a lot of people who are in the very early stages of their life, and they're trying to figure out, essentially, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And I talk to people who, I'm sure you do too, Damion, of they're they're in a career, they're trying to figure out their career, and they've heard about real estate, right? And everyone just thinks that real estate is just this big bubble. I just want to get into real estate. Well, is you have to explain to people, listen, there's 1,000 different kinds of real estates, and there's different positions and everything. And where people always tell me is like, I want to start house flipping. And I just like cringe every time, because I know, and as I've learned, is that the people who are making real money in real estate aren't the house flippers. Can you make money doing it? Yes, but you're not going to build lasting wealth flipping houses. It's not set up for you in terms of tax benefits, leveraging your time, passive income. None of the true benefits that make the wealthy wealthy come from flipping houses, and no one talks about that. So that's why I wrote the title, Skip the Flip, because I think you need to skip the house flipping in order to get to where you actually want to go in building wealth in real estate.
When you say you don't get the tax benefits, don't you get the tax detriments if you're flipping? I mean, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly.
because when you guys, if you have to think about this. If you're and a lot of times nobody's told us this, but if you're
Mm-hmm.
flipping a house and you go buy a house, you do some work and then you sell it that year, that's called ordinary income.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is it ordinary income that's going to be added to your income tax with pushing you into a higher bracket probably and all these things, but the other problem is it's also it's going to end up being self-employment income. You could easily have 60% tax with your social security, self-employment, state and federal, and it's again all ordinary. Whereas if you're talking about building, talk a little bit about the like mini storage from your experience and the tax. What does that look like? Like, are you really paying tax?
It sounds crazy, Damien, but we don't pay tax. And that's a lot of people are raised to think that it's your patriotic duty to pay your taxes. And I'm here under the opposite impression that paying your taxes is not patriotic, because if you are paying taxes, you're not doing what the government wants you to do. So, um, in my book, I go into detail on how the wealthy and the rich don't pay taxes legally, not tax evasion, and how actually that's what the government wants you to do, is not pay taxes. Because if you're doing that, if you're not paying taxes, they're rewarding you for an action they wanted you to take. So I talk all about that in the book. And as a mini storage investor, it doesn't even have to be mini storage. It could be apartments or any other sort of buy and hold real estate. You can leverage the system to not pay taxes.
And so unfortunately, we have a lot of yahoos that like AOC and Elizabeth Warren that think that
Mm-hmm.
more taxes is better. And they I see this stuff in like the New York Times talking about the loopholes. And even I have friends that I really like them, but they're boneheads when we talk about money, because they'll say, "Oh, those loopholes that Jared Kushner and this secret thing called depreciation." And I go, "You're an idiot. You don't understand that the system is set up where we need housing, we need people building, and the government is incompetent." And the reason the government has a tax code is not a bunch of ways to pay taxes. The tax code is a few pages of taxes, and then it's a whole bunch of pages of incentives. It's basically driving behavior, like you're talking about. Government wants us to do things. It wants us to hire people, which is why businesses get benefits and incentives to hire people. It's why the PPP was set up, from the CARES Act. It's why it was set up to incentivize and give all this money to people that had employees. People that are saying, I'm only getting $1,200, maybe you get some more unemployment. The government is not really looking at you saying you're contributing a lot, or as what they want you to do, and say they want you to go hire people. They want you to go build things. They want you to buy assets. And so arguing with the system is like arguing with gravity. It's moronic. It doesn't, well, and it's not going to help. What does help is what you're doing something, and you get incentivized for that. So you talk about the tax benefits. You talk about, okay, so you're making a bunch of money, and so then what? What's the point of all this? You're not financially independent yet, right? You're not, or are you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so you're all right. So you guys are like, well, wait a second. I'm trying to do the math now. I know Hayden said he's 14, so you're trying to like wait. Okay, so let's talk about that, because you started doing the mini stores. Did you start with the partner 2 years ago, or was it you started
it's coming up on 4 years?
Okay,
4 years ago, yeah.
So 4 years ago, you went to your partner and you said, I'm going to contribute. And here's a thought. So when Hayden and I were talking recently, he's talking about his book coming out. And in my mind, I didn't just say, hey, let me help you. Let me know if I can help you. I mean, I may have said that, but when I went beyond that, I said, let me think about this. So I spent some time like you're talking about, and I said, okay, you're going to go promote your book, and it would be nice to have people knowing about your book, so you get on podcasts. So I said, great, let me make some introductions and help you get on some stuff. It takes the onus, when you're talking about, hey, how can I help you? Like I'm finding a way to help you directly.
You just helped me. You didn't ask, how can I help you? You just said, hey, I'm going to help you, and here's how. It's like, awesome, right?
Yeah. So that's the secret. Do the work. It's like, I know you guys, work is sometimes a 4-letter word, but go do the work. Just like spend some time. Go research people's stuff. Figure it out.
It's called work? You know why it's called work? Because it works.
Because it works. It works.
Yeah.
Well, and you spent 4 years working. I mean, like you literally did it. 4 years. I find it fascinating that everybody wants something yesterday. They don't want to do the work. They feel, a lot of times people feel entitled. I mean, part of being an underdog is being willing to get dirty and going out there, and like you go out there and you work for free, and people are like, oh, it's like most of society has turned into a bunch of crackheads. Like it's the next hit. So 4 years. So think about that. It took you 4 years and you're financially free. So did you do it so you could have pina coladas and live on the beach, or like what's the purpose? And I mean, is that a stretch? Are most people not capable of what you did? I mean, what's your thinking on that?
Everyone's capable. I mean, I'm not a smart guy by any means. I did it personally for my driving motivation was freedom, without a doubt. If I wanted to sit down and write a book, I wanted to be able to do that. I didn't want to have to, someone tell me I got to get on a Zoom call at 9 a.m. and go over these and these bullet points. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, and for me, that's building businesses, buying real estate, and helping other people achieve what they want to achieve. So that's really my motivation was freedom of time.
And I find it fascinating. A lot of what we've been trained to do is just get more money, and we never really understand the time element. And people say, well, I'm doing this thing, and I go, you've got millions of dollars. It doesn't seem to matter. Like for me, that's what the case was. I had millions of dollars, but I didn't have my time. I remember sleeping underneath my desk when I was a multimillionaire, just grinding it and driving it. And it wasn't because I was going towards a goal other than more. And so you're talking about something where you have these goals to create this wealth, and it didn't take 40 years. Like you didn't buy in. You obviously rejected the idea that you needed to go work for a company and wait for a gold watch. So it wasn't 40 years, it was 4 years or maybe less, when you hit it. But one of the questions I have is, and people, they skewer this, where there's an idea that financial freedom is something that it's not. And I'll give you an example. I met a girl at an event about 20 years ago, and 6 months later, she told me she was financially free. And I said, okay. So I said, well, what does that mean? She's like, well, I don't have to work. And I said, okay, well, you were making $120,000 a year. She was your age. She was like 24. And I said, well, tell me about this. She said, well, I moved back to Alabama. I moved in with my parents. I don't have any expenses. And I bought a rental property for cash. And I said, okay, so you're making $1,000 a month. She goes, I'm financially free. And I said, you're a financial idiot.
Yeah, no doubt.
so So please tell me you didn't move in with your parents and you bought one. You obviously didn't buy one. You've got a couple thousand units, and a lot of the stuff you guys is on Hayden's site, haydencrabtree.com. You can go see some stuff and learn more about him and connect with Hayden. But it's what when you said yes, I'm financially free, what does that mean? Does that mean you have enough money to do anything and everything, or are you just able to own your time, or like what does that mean for you?
I mean, that's a good question. Whenever I hit financial freedom, I didn't throw a party and like quit my job because I had already put myself into a position where I was living the lifestyle I wanted to live, right? I just still had to work for income. So whenever I finally hit it, it wasn't this big lifestyle change for me because I was already doing what I wanted to do. And that was because the early actions I took whenever, most of my friends were, playing video games in college and stuff like that. I was out grinding and, providing value in learning and acquiring assets. So for me, sacrificing time led to a bigger reward of time, but it wasn't this big lifestyle change for me that I had to make this move. And, I'm not going to buy a quadplex and move in one unit so that I don't have to pay for living and stuff like that. It's smartly acquiring assets that are going to allow you to do whatever you want. And luckily for me, I enjoy what I do. So it wasn't this change of like, all right, you know what, wipe my hands clean, I'm done. It's just, let's keep on doing because I do want more, but I enjoy what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that that's important for people to realize. I was having this conversation with a mastermind group this morning, and we were talking about the excitement of the deal and whether one of the guys is making million plus a year, and he's like, well, I think when I get to like 20 million, and I just asked, I said, okay, like, do you love the deal enough to do it for free? And it doesn't really make sense because if you're doing deals, like part of the whole process is it's a game. It's like when playing a board game, you don't play to lose. Like that doesn't make any sense. And so when you do a deal, you're playing to win. And how do you know? Because there's a scorecard. It's called the financial statement. Like, did you win? Did the money flow? And so, there is a question about what does that mean for all of us? Like what are we doing the thing that we love? If somebody said, hey, you know what, you're financially free, would you get back up and go do the same thing? And if you would do something totally different, it's a question of, are you really on the right path? Could you be sharing time? Are you just doing something for the grind? I did the same thing you did in that for years when people they were out partying, they were on vacation. I was sitting at a wine bar studying the tax code and looking at deals. And I remember I had a friend, and I'd love to know if this has happened to you in any way with the people you went to college with and just your friends. I had a friend that one time, he's the guy that brought me, he and I both read Rich Dad Poor Dad when it came out. And in fact, I think it came out when you were like 1. So that's awesome. It's been around for a while. So he calls me and he goes, hey man, I need a partner for this real estate deal I'm doing. I found a house to buy. I don't know if we had a flip plan or if we were just holding it. I think we were holding it. And I said, sure, I'm in. So I used my credit card and I went out and took a cash advance, bought this house, became the plumber, the roofer, the painter. I mean, I burned myself. I fell off the roof. I got high from the paint. Like it was a big old mess. And I learned a lot. And the thing that happened after that was he thought his ego took over and it wasn't worth his time to go do the work, to get dirty. So I went on and bought 150 houses and he became homeless, literally was sleeping in a hammock and driving a motorcycle and driving cabs. To this day, 20 years later, we've gone very different paths. And I remember a conversation it was about 15 years ago. And he looked at me and he said, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. And all you do is just, you focus and you're hitting it. And like, you never want to go out and do things. And I was like, you know what, I'm paying a price now so I can pay any price later. Yep. And I wonder, what's your experience with people that you've known in your teens and early 20s and where you're at and where they're at? Are you guys still friends? Has anybody eviscerated you? Have you cut them loose? Like, what's your experience with the people around you?
Totally great question. I was in a fraternity in college and I loved that life for a while I was in it. But once I transitioned and said, I'm going to begin to take control of my future, really you have to start to prioritize what you want to do and especially where your time goes to. So I don't want to say I was alienated or, discarded, but, you quit going to the parties, you quit showing up at 2 p.m. to play video games, and it's, you're not really part of that crowd anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need 50 friends to hang out with. I'd rather have two great friends that, I can communicate with, who understand me and are on the same path as me, than I would 100 people to, quote, hang out with. So, there aren't, I don't want to use the saying it's like it's lonely at the top, because by no means am I anywhere near the top, but there are a lot less people on this journey than it appears to be. People who are truly on the journey and who are truly putting in the work. If you're hanging out at 2 p.m. and you're talking about the journey, you're not on the journey. People who are on the journey are working it too. So I don't know. I mean, that kind of answers your question, but I wouldn't say I've been alienated, but definitely the number of friends and people you have that you can go to shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. Until hang on, I'm sorry, I'm gonna finish this. Until you begin to meet other people who you click with, like you know what I mean? So it's almost this reverse funnel type thing where you're in this process of figuring out where you want to go and who you want to be associated with. And then you start to find those people, and they're fewer and far between, don't get me wrong, but you find them, and those people are such solid people that you just have a lasting connection with them.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you get to a point where like you're just out of people because you've moved on, or all of a sudden there's an opening for other people that are at a different level, different caliber, and it's not just about the amount of money people have. It tends to, my experience, maybe yours too, that we have there's a different level of seriousness about owning our lives and not just kind of wandering through it and stumbling and being hungover throughout the whole thing. It's literally a purposeful thing. That's what you tend. That's what I've found over the years with people that have evolved into my life, and it's the other ones have kind of faded away. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I've been eviscerated, sometimes they've been eviscerated, sometimes it just faded. So I think that that's a very interesting thing for people to think about. But I think that there's a lot of people that are afraid of that. Have you had anybody that tried to pull you back? The whole crabs in the box. Has that happened with family or friends or anybody at all?
No, my family's very, very supportive. But I decided, hey, if you're not in my boat, get out of the boat. It's my boat. It's going in this direction. If you're not in it, you're just weighing it down. I'm going to keep paddling, and if the paddle's not in your hand, get the hell out of my boat.
And I think you guys have to be thoughtful about this. It's people are going to sink your boat if you don't kick them out of your boat. And sometimes that's a ruthless thing to think about. Well, what happens if they're not in my boat? They might drown. You know what? If they want to be in your boat, it's your boat. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's your rules. And so where do you want to take the boat? I mean, Hayden's right. It's if you don't own that, then you're subject to everybody else's agenda. And most people's agenda is being fat, dumb, and happy and just kind of being idle and going in circles. It's like Groundhog Day. You clearly are not on Groundhog Day. Your focus with writing a book. What was the biggest driver for you to write this book? Because you're financially independent. That happened before the book. Is it for something beyond you? I mean, were you doing what I was doing when I was your age, just filling my ego full of hedonism, or like what was the purpose of the book? I know it wasn't that, but that was what I was doing when I was 24.
The book is 100%. I'll say it's selfish in this way. I was having the conversation so much, and sitting down with people for hours to explain the playbook to financial freedom, that I don't mind having those conversations, and I don't mind spending time with people, but I can't scale my time to the level at which I can scale a book. So totally, it was to take a load off of me in terms of having these conversations, and I'm still happy to have them with people, but it was to help as many people as I possibly could, because I was just repeating the same thing over and over. The playbook doesn't change. This is the playbook. This is how it works. Here are the rules. Do this, don't do this. So I wrote this book because it's the same exact thing. And if you want my help and you want my time, here's the book. I'll give it to you for free. I'm not in this to make money. If you want the book, here it is for free. Go read it and talk to me after on the higher level questions you have, because I'm going to give you everything I know in terms of how to do what I've done. So that's why I wrote it.
It's brilliant, and it always makes me laugh when somebody will reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this thing," and I go, "Okay, what do we want to talk about?" And they start asking questions, and I go, "Wait, have you read the book that I wrote on that? Because I spent a year or whatever it was really making sure that it was simplified, and all the questions you're asking right now were in the book." Yeah, I got the book, but I haven't read it yet. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're literally wasting my time, because I invested in you having the ability to read it, think about it, study it, and come to me with better questions. And
Mm-hmm.
it's incredibly frustrating. So it helps me filter too. When somebody said, "I read your book and I've got some questions," man, I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
No
Like,
doubt.
that's awesome, because I know you're serious. But so you've heard of Tim Ferriss of the
Mm-hmm.
4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the approach of the 4-hour work week, and that there's a 4 hours that's what it takes, 4 hours to be done or free or whatever? What do you have to say about that?
Uh, I mean, listen, the world is an infinite place, and if you want to design your life to where you only want to work 4 hours a week, that's great. But I'm gonna be bored out of my mind if I'm only doing 4 hours of work a week. So that's not what I want. But if that's what you want, there are certainly ways to set that up. And I just say, whatever you do in life, be intentional about what do you want the result to be. I'm reading again for, I've read it before, but the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and to be intentional about what you want the outcome to be before you even begin. And that's such a powerful lesson. So if you only want to work 4 hours a week, do that. If you want to work no hours a week, you can set that up. You just have to be intentional about doing that.
Do you think that it's possible to compete if you're starting from scratch and you're working 4 hours a week, and compete against somebody else that's working 20 or 30 hours a week that has an equal drive and equal intelligence?
You won't beat me. No.
Right. I agree with you. Guys, that was like a kind of a rhetorical question just to see if Hayden's, as smart as I think he is, because here's the thing. I like Tim Ferriss. I like a lot of the stuff he does. One of the things he does, he invests in people. When he does startup investing, he's not investing to try to nail the next Snapchat or TikTok, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally investing in the people because he wants to connect, and it's about the relationship. So he puts 25 or 50,000 bucks into things. So some of the stuff he does, I think, is brilliant. What I think people did is misinterpret the whole idea of a 4-hour work week, that you can just hack your way into not doing anything and you have all the rewards. That's like The Secret. If I will my way, the money bag will hit me in the head from the sky. Like, dude, that is not how it works. You better will yourself with a whole lot of foot power. Like, that's will your feet to move and go out there and do something. And 4 hours is what happens down the road. It is not something. I was talking with these guys about this whole philosophy, and especially with your generation, where there's this idea that we can just get it all, and we're all winners because we've always received trophies, and there's like the work involved. Yeah, that's old school. That's like a previous generation. And I mean, what's your take on a lot of the people that are in your generation? And I know there are people that are definitely working their butts off.
Yeah.
But there's this mentality that I've seen where, and a lot of people are saying, yeah, you're worth it, or you can do it, and it doesn't take much, and you can hack. And I was like, am I just missing something? Am I just old? And I don't think I'm just old. But what do you think? Do you think that there's a new thing, a new way that I've missed?
Before we get into that, what is my generation?
Your generation is the 20s to 30s right now. That's I'm putting you in that box.
Okay, because I'm not a millennial, and that's one thing I'll tell people. I'm the first year to come underneath the millennial, which is Gen Z. So
which is different. Gen Z is actually, there's a different, like Jason, I forget his name. He's in Austin, and he talks about the differences between millennials, Gen Y, and Gen Z. And your generation, because I'm glad you corrected me and clarified, because I was going to throw you in under the bus, I guess. There is a different focus. Like your generation that you just put yourself in, the statistics show that there's actually more seriousness around money. There's more focus on things like retirement. It's a very different thing. So let's talk about the folks that were just a little bit older than you. Let's talk about them, because I think that's that I'm talking about.
Let's throw all of them under the bus. How about that?
All right, cool. Let's do that.
No, I mean, listen, from my perspective, and this is only my perspective. That's all we can offer is our own perspective, is that every generation of people is full of high performers and full of bums. You know what I mean? There may be something about the technology you're raised with as you come up, but people are people, in my opinion, and there's going to be high performers and low performers in every single generation. So, when I hear people throw millennials or try to throw me under the bus for being a millennial, it's just like, look at the people in your generation. You got no money in your retirement accounts. You're relying on Social Security. You think your pension's solvent. You guys are screwed. Don't talk about me. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what Hayden has to say about that, just in case you were wondering. Like, look in the mirror, guys. I mean, it's not a certain generation. Everybody's jacked up across generations.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Whether you talk about people that were part of the Depression era, the boomers, the World War II era, like Gen X. I guess I'm an edge case, Gen X. And there's majority of people are messed up because they're not doing the work on themselves. They're not digging down, and they're following a playbook that's somebody else's playbook. And that's somebody else that has that playbook. It does not necessarily have your best interest. And so I think you're right. There are drivers and there are bums. And,
Mhm.
some of you guys are like, if you look in the mirror, you're going to be like, I've been a bum. And that's one of the greatest things you can say is, oh man, I get it. Doesn't mean you have to be a bum. It means maybe you've been a bum. And the question is, what are you going to do now? Like, I love when we talk about the big picture stuff, all this chaos with the coronavirus and just all this stuff, that the pension disaster, there's all these things that are going on. We can talk about them and we can be smart. We can be an academic, whatever. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Like,
Mhm.
what are you actually going to take action on? If you're following a playbook, and Hayden did not show up at the party with millions of dollars when he started this journey. He didn't show up with an MBA and 3 PhDs, or like whatever you think you need. He showed up with ambition and the willingness to work and stay committed and focused and not get off the freaking train. And so, what does that mean for you guys? It means it's open. I mean, I don't think Hayden's a dum dum, but come on. I mean, you guys, this is, especially if you're in America, it's more,
Especially.
it's
Oh,
it's a
so
choice.
taken. It's taken for granted, man, and it really frustrates me. I did a mission trip to the Dominican Republic 2 years ago, and I came back with a totally different perspective. People who take it for granted of being in America and talk about how unfair our system is, you have no idea the way that other people are living. I went to a village in the Dominican Republic where they had to walk 2 miles to a river to fill up 5 gallon buckets of water full of muddy river water to take a shower. And they did that once a week. And it was just like, you come back home and you look in your hand and you have, an iPhone, and you know, it's just insane the amount of opportunity. I started this journey with, I think it was like $1,200 is how much I had whenever I went and started working for free. And it's just, you can do anything you put your mind to if you're willing to work and get there.
So somebody that says, okay, well, I have 1,200 or I've got 2,000 or 5,000 or I've got 500 or whatever their number is, and they say, I can't go work for free because I'm going to starve to death. I can't live off of that. So how did you reconcile that? What did you do? Did you work two jobs? You worked for free one and you did another one? Or like, how did you not die?
I mean, I was fortunate to be on full ride scholarship in college, so I didn't have a whole lot of expenses. At night, I would go and work in Athens, Georgia has a great downtown scene, so we have a lot of bars there. I would work as a bartender at night, just to make money to live off of during the day. Live lean, you know what I mean? Don't spend money on a lot of stuff, and then just literally dedicate every minute of spare time I had to perfecting my craft and learning and gaining skills in that area, which is real estate investing. So people, if you want to say you don't have any time, pull up your phone, go to the productivity or the settings and look at how much screen time you're spending on social media or whatever it is. I guarantee you have time. Okay. Dedicate that time to going and looking on Zillow at properties, calling people and networking, going to online meetups, whenever this whole coronavirus ends, going to in-person meetups, driving for properties. It doesn't matter. There is something you can do. Everyone has the same amount of time. So I guarantee you I have more time in my day that I'm not squeezing out, and I guarantee you do too. So if we wanted to squeeze out that extra time, it's there. You just have to do it, and you have to be honest with yourself that it is there.
This is a huge point that we need to drive home a little bit more, because I remember years ago when George Bush Jr., uh, W, I guess it was, in the 2000s, it was like 2003, when he was president, somebody made a comment in a group I was in, and they said, I don't have time. I mean, I want to work out, I want to stay healthy, but I don't have time. And somebody in the group said, so wait a second, are you telling me you're busier than the president of the United States? And they said, what are you talking about? No. They said, the president works out every day, rides his bike, does a workout. So you're just full of crap. You
Mm-hmm.
literally are not in control of your life. Your life's out of control, and you're just pissing away hours and hours, because everybody has the 168 hours a week. We all have, it's a great equalizer. The question is, what are you choosing to do with it? And people say, well, I don't want to choose everything. I don't want to have my calendar controlling me. When you have something set up where you control your calendar, you actually open yourself up to freedom, because you open space up. It allows your mind to say, okay, it's all handled. It all has a space. Otherwise, it's always on your mind. So you're 100% right. What do we squeeze? What are we screwing around with? What are we wasting our time and our money? When you're talking about living lean,
Mm-hmm.
I remember, man, I hear this all the time. I heard it in my own head when I was going through my crisis, when I lost my 20 million, and I was sitting there going, well, my burn rate's 75,000 a month, which I know it sounds insane, and that's $1,000,000 a year before anything happened, just my life. And I got it down to 25,000, and I thought, okay, that's it. That's all I can do. you want to talk about delusional? Somebody needed to punch me in the face a few times, and it was because we think these things are required, whatever they are. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have them. I'm saying we think they're required. Like, have a little perspective. Go to the Dominican Republic. Go to Africa. Hell, go to some of the bad parts of America and some of these bad areas where you're like, what is this? This is happening in my country.
No kidding.
We just need to have a little bit of a reality check. The question is, what do you want more? Do you want the first level consequence, which is the feeling immediately, like, ooh, that big chunk of ice cream, I'm gonna eat that, feels good. Then you get fat, and then you just look like an idiot because you can't control your own urges. Or do we have a longer term thing? You spent a number of years saying, no, I'm not going to eat the ice cream. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to work out. And I mean, I'm not just talking about the fact that you're pretty fit. I'm talking about the fact that you were financially working out. So Adonis over here is flexing. You guys, if you're listening to this, that doesn't happen. I mean, physically and financially, you did the same thing, and it's an option. Now, if you say, well, I don't have that option because I'm a paraplegic, that's, I don't want to talk about the edge case. I'm talking about most of us. There are certain people that can't. That's not you listening right now. And I'm telling you that because we have options.
What's crazy, Damion, is that most people with a disability use that to empower themselves, and people with no disabilities want to have a disability as an excuse.
I agree with that. What's the hang up? What are we stopping for? Are we lazy? Are we afraid of the judgment? Like, what do you think is holding people back? Why aren't all of your peers, I assume this, maybe I'm making an ass out of myself, but I assume that not all of your peers are financially free at 24 that you were in your fraternity with.
I mean, no, I think a lot of them work, I think a lot of them have good jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that people, I think it's lying to themselves, really. And that comes to either taking a bite of ice cream or, stepping out on a limb and seeking financial freedom, is that people just lie to themselves about what the truth is, what the reality is. And I think a lot of people are afraid to be wrong, and you can't have the fear of being wrong. I think you said this on your last podcast. It's guaranteed that you're going to make mistakes. You know what I mean? The only guarantee is that you will make mistakes on your journey. And that's certainly been true for myself. I know it's been true for you. So you can't have the fear of making mistakes. If you are worried about, and this goes back to the friend group, if you're worried about people laughing at you or making fun of you or whatever it is, why are you letting other people control your life? You know what I mean? You need to control your own life, and you need to do what you think is best. And if you're wrong, so what? You just learned a very valuable lesson. Wipe yourself off, get back up, and try again.
Well, and to that point, I would say that when you make a mistake, that's God's gift to you wrapped up in pain. And it's not about, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. What you should be saying, and I'm talking about shooting all over yourself in a positive way, saying, hey, you know what? That was awesome. And let me suck every morsel of learning out of that thing, and then figure out the biggest mistake people make is not making mistakes fast enough, because that's how you learn. Think about all those tests in school, all the ones that we got right, we nailed, and how much of that information we forgot. And then think about the things that we got wrong, the chances we had to go learn the stuff that we got wrong, and how that stuff gets baked into us. It happens in the real world. I mean, when you make a mistake and you lose money in a deal or in some part of a deal, you trip up, how often do you make that same mistake again?
You don't. Those are the most valuable lessons, and that's an education. That's not a mistake.
No, that's it. Okay, so I want to talk about for a minute the mistake apparently I'm making with not knowing what in the world is going on with TikTok. So can you please enlighten me on TikTok? Because apparently this is a thing I've heard about, people talking about and TikToking and doing videos, and I don't know what's happening. And so I'm definitely disconnected. So help us, all the underdogs, what is going on? What is TikTok?
All right, underdogs, I'm going to do my best. I'm by no means an expert, and I just got on it. If you're on, what social media do you use, if any? Are you on Facebook?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I tweet when I do something, but I'm basically on LinkedIn, and so I'm, that's it.
Okay, so if you're scrolling through your LinkedIn feed, right, then you either, one, have to be a contact with somebody, or a contact has to have shared somebody's post for it to pop up on your feed, correct?
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about TikTok is that TikTok is nothing. I mean, you can follow people and you can get their content on a certain page, but the majority of TikTok is built around finding other people, new people you don't know, finding their content and putting it in front of your face. And what makes TikTok so powerful is that its algorithm based off of what you interact with will uh, will give you more of what you want, right? So if you're all about dogs and you love cute dogs and every single cute dog that comes up, you like it and you share it, TikTok is going to realize that you really like dogs. Okay. So it's going to do its best to keep you on that platform and give you more of what you want to see. Now, if you're somebody who wants to learn about investing, for instance, and every time you like an investing video, then it's going to say, okay, Damion really likes investing. So let's give him more investing content so that he's going to stay on our platform as long as possible. And this is very unique because as opposed to all other social medias, which is you're seeing content that you are following or you're friends with, TikTok is all about giving you new content that you have not yet discovered, but it's in your realm of what you want to see. So if you, for instance, Damion, I know that you do a lot of stuff. You've got obviously the podcast genius. So if you were to go on and you wanted to build your personal brand and you started posting about real estate investing, for instance, then everyone who's interested in real estate investing, whether they know you or not, they're probably at some point going to like your content. And that's a really good person to be viewing your content because the platform has already decided, okay, this person likes real estate investing content. So what's powerful about it is that TikTok will go out and find people who you should be interacting with, but who have not yet discovered your stuff. And it's going to put your stuff in front of them. As an example, the first video I posted on there got 5,000 views in 24 hours, which of people who don't know me. So that's extremely powerful because that's 5,000 new people who were interested in real estate investing material now have been introduced to Hayden Crabtree. So it's a pretty cool platform to really get your brand out there organically to people who don't know you but are interested in what you're talking about.
When you did the video, what was were there ads involved? Was it totally organic? What was the cost? Like, what was it?
Dude, the cost was 10 minutes sitting down to make the video and then just posting it. There was no advertising, anything like that.
Okay, so everybody that's wondering what they should do, something. Okay, so like
For sure.
anybody can throw a camera up and do a video. Like the point is, we're learning something new. It honestly, guys, it doesn't matter how much you know. It matters how willing you are to learn and adapt and grow. If you think what you know now is the most valuable thing for the next 10 years, you're in trouble. Because the next 10 years from now, it's going to look, I truly believe the world is going to look very little like it looks now. And so what does that mean? It means you need to adapt. I mean, things like our currency, it's going all digital. We're not going to have cash. We're going to have basically gold and silver and digital. It's probably going to be like Bitcoin, centralized currencies. Like if you don't understand that, the time to learn is now because it's going to run over you. You're going to miss the train. Yeah. I mean, this is what Hayden's talking about. When he mentioned that, I'm thinking, great, I need to learn something about this. Like before, maybe it's too late, but I don't think so. I think it's still, and anytime we think, oh, it's too late for me, you're literally just saying, okay, I'm dead, because that's the wrong answer. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's what I was telling you is that I think you need to get on it. I think everyone needs to get on it, whether it's to learn and be introduced to new material or to get your personal brand out there. So, but yeah, I totally agree. I think that the world's going to look way different. And speaking of gold and silver, I need to talk to you after this I need to pick up some silver. You have some I can get from you, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because about 47 years ago, the company that I own with gold and silver, and you guys are like, wait, trying to do the math right now because Hayden's 14 and Damion's 68. So like everybody's like, clearly this is a fraud. Like nobody is their real age. It's all fake. No, back in the early 70s, really before it was even legal, my dad, who was kind of an outlaw, in reality, he was an outlaw. He set up a precious metals. It was like a trading company, a little like secondhand store. And so for growing up, I saw these buckets of silver. I didn't realize I was looking at millions of dollars. I wish I actually had all that, still going, and it was under my stairs. But the point is that I ended up in that world. And so it became something that was secondhand to me. And it's something that I do and I love because I trust it. And I love being able to share it. I wrote a book on it called The Quick and Dirty Guide to Gold and Silver. And it's a quick book. It's not the best book. It's the quick book to get you up to speed. 30 minutes, the 21 most answered or the most asked questions answered. And I love talking with people about gold and silver because I feel like you're taking responsibility and control for your life. If you just think, oh, I'm making money and I'm saving money, you are screwed because they are printing it faster than you can make it. I don't care how good you are. They're fast. They're better at printing. So I've been doing this for a lot of years and I firmly believe in it. I don't think there's a person alive that shouldn't have physical gold and silver. I don't care if it's 1 ounce of silver, but you got to start with something. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I don't really talk about it a lot.
Where can I get that book? Because I've learned a lot about it, but I haven't read your book.
So the book is on Amazon, and in fact, I mean, every book is just about on Amazon. It's
Sure.
but you can get it on Amazon. And I think your book, Skip the Flip, is on Amazon as well, right?
My book's on Amazon too for anybody who wants a physical copy. But again, I wrote this book to spread knowledge, not to make money. So if you want a physical copy, go pick it up on Amazon. But if you want a free copy, I'm giving out PDFs. It's the same exact thing. Just go to haydencrabtree.com/free book. Tell your friends too, because the knowledge in there is so good. I mean, Damion, you know how powerful real estate is for personal wealth. So it's time to get educated.
Well, and you guys can really, you and I are kindred spirits in the way that we look at things. When, like, I just love giving my stuff away because I don't have this scarcity mentality, and it's obvious. You guys can tell. Hayden doesn't either. It's just like, okay, I'm going to give, and like, you don't show up and say, oh, I want to work for free, and then just start working if you don't have that spirit of abundance. And if you're thinking, well, I have a lot of friends that have material, they have a lot of stuff in their brain, and they go, how am I going to make money off this? And I'm like, wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to do is figure out how many people you can share this with, and just trust. If you trust that the side effect is the money, that there's going to be this unbelievable amount of wealth that's pouring into your life, then it'll allow you to open up. But we tend to like hold on, and it's as if there's this finite number of dollars or euros or whatever, and that's just bad thinking. I mean, what do you say to that?
I mean, thinking about a limited number of dollars, look in the last month, there's definitely not a limited amount of dollars. You know what I mean? So, no, I mean, we live, if you want to see how much money's in the world, go sit on an interstate and count the cars as they drive by and try and tally up how fast each one of them's worth. There goes 20,000, there goes 5. You know what I'm saying? If you just sit there and look, you'll just look at how much money is in the world, going places, spending money, doing things. It's just, it's out there. You don't have to be worried about getting your share. If you do the right thing and take action, it'll come to you.
And you guys, Hayden's not saying sit at home in front of your computer and playing video games is the way to do it. Like, literally getting out there and doing something, and then keep doing it. So there's starting, and then there's doing. And here's one of the missing things that really a lot of us, that we miss out. It's not just doing the same thing over and over and beating your head into the wall. It's having reflection personally with other people to where it's called the action correction cycle. I talk about this in Reinvented Life, that you have to be willing to say, okay, that didn't work. What am I learning from that? How do I pivot? How do I adjust? And that often requires other people that have been through things. I always say it's balder grayer, unless you get like a supernova event called Hayden, and he can start giving you feedback, and he still has his hair and it's not gray. I mean, that's cool.
I did just get my first gray hair, so be careful.
Oh, damn. All right. So, okay. So part of the disclosure here, if y'all are going to go after financial freedom, gray hair is going to be part of it.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So embrace it. You know what? Gray is sexy. I mean, it just is. So just let's go with that. Anything you want to throw out there before we wrap this up? I mean, my brain is full, and then I'm a little swollen right now, so I need to go drink some turmeric and deflate.
If anybody wants to learn more about me, or if they want to talk about real estate, I have a Facebook group going where we talk about real estate all day long. Go to haydencrabtree.com/community. And you guys come, and if you have any questions about either what's in the book, if you have questions about specific, I mean, I'm willing to help you out. If you're doing deals and you got questions about X, Y, or Z, come ask the questions, because I love to help people out who are taking action and working towards their goals.
Well, that's awesome. And it's also really important for you guys to hear what Hayden's saying. And I know this from personal experience. Hayden's an open book, very, very open to helping. What Hayden doesn't want, what I don't want, is somebody wasting our time that's not going to do things, that's just trying to suck our brain like some alien, that comes down and just like, blah. That's not what we want. It doesn't make us happy to have you suck our brains and then go do nothing. What makes us really happy is to invest in somebody's life that goes and changes their life. And we've had some type of contribution to that. It's really fulfilling. So if you're on that trajectory, don't feel bad. I mean, I have people, I don't know, you may have had this too. Sometimes people will say, well, I feel bad. Is there somebody else I can talk to? I'm like, I'm happy to talk to you. Don't waste my time. Go take it and run with it. Like it makes you happy as much as it does me, I think.
The only reason you would feel bad about taking someone's time is if you know you're wasting it.
It's a good point. It's a good point. You guys, I think we're gonna wrap on that, because that was a very powerful mic dropping moment. And so the next time you think I might be wasting somebody's time, maybe there's something in part inside of you that's saying, I'm not really going to do anything here. So think about that. And if you go, no, that's BS, little voice, I am going to do something with that, engage the person and then get off your butt and kick it. And we're here with you. We're there. I mean, we're along this journey with you, and we look forward to your successes and being a part of it, seeing you guys live a free, fulfilled life. And again, go to Hayden Crabtree's site and visit him, become a part of the conversation. You guys are going to grow with other people on Facebook that he's got, and engage. You guys are going to really like hanging out with him. I know I do. And anything we can do for you, you know how to reach us, and then get creative. You know, like Hayden did, just go out there and go get creative. Start helping people randomly. They won't know what to do with you, and you know what? You'll make some waves, and they'll say, "Hey, you got to become a partner because you're too invaluable." It happened with Hayden. It's happened with me. It's going to happen with you when you take it really seriously and go with it. It's part of the underdog journey. So you guys, thanks so much for listening. Hayden, thanks for being here. Appreciate your time and what you do and how you show up. I'm sure we'll have you on again because you're a badass and you're a true underdog that's making a difference, man.
Let's go. I appreciate you having me on. Let's do it again.